pull together. So that's the first one. Now I want you to think about a few key things, and the reason I bring this up is to get you to understand that there are many different ways to run a process, to run an operation. And very often your job as a manager is to ask the question, are we organized right? Can I make a change to the system? How do I recognize the choices that are made in a given operation so that I can suggest alternatives or suggest ways to improve performance? So here are a few words for you to think about. One word I want you to think about is the word capacity. Capacity. Now, capacity is sort of a designed ability to manage inputs. So if you think about capacity, if you go to a bank, for example, there's a certain number of tellers available. That gives you an idea of how many people they can process. If you go to a restaurant, there are tables available. That's capacity. If you go to a manufacturing unit, there are machines available, and the number of machines and their production rate determines capacity. If it's an airline, it's the number of aircraft they have available and the number of seats. All of that is a capacity choice. So a crucial question in an operation is the choice of the appropriate level of capacity. So that's a key decision. The next choice is the level of inventory you carry. Now, the simplest way to think about inventory is that if you drive by a car dealer, you see a lot of parked cars there waiting for sale. That's inventory. If you go to a grocery store, if you go to an apparel retail store, in all of those cases, there's inventory waiting for you to come in and purchase the product. A crucial decision is how much inventory do you carry that's competitive, that's profitable. Okay? So that's the next question. The third crucial choice is lead time. Lead time is the time it takes from the time a customer says, I need something, till the time they get the product. Okay? So think about these three pieces: capacity, inventory, and lead time. Okay? And the reason I present these three is that in many ways, when you walk into any operation, you can ask the question, how much capacity do they have? How much inventory do they carry so that when I come in, I can pick it up right away? And how long does it take? So if, for example, the system is carrying a pile of inventory, so if you go to Payless or Marsh, there's inventory sitting there. So the only time it takes is the time it takes for you to pick up that inventory, pay for it at checkout, and leave. So from the perspective of the system, you're not waiting for a Procter & Gamble or a Unilever to produce the product. They've already produced the product, they've put in inventory, it's waiting for you so that it takes you very little time to get the product. But think about an alternative. If you order a computer from Dell, it's being made to order. So when it's being made to order, you're waiting for that processing time. Dell itself has to run its system to figure out a way to run the system fairly quickly so that after you pay for it, not too long later you get the computer. Now, each of these are very different ways to run the system. One of them can be thought of as make to stock. So a lot of the retailing examples you think about are make to stock system. Things are already made, they're waiting for you in inventory. Others are make to order. You place the order, you specify all the details of what you like, and then it's made for you. The third option is, of course, that how these pieces connect up together is a function of the capacity. So one option could happen, that could be the case, is there is no inventory, you place the order, and then somebody runs out and buys all the components and makes the product for you. Now, notice now that there are many different ways to run a company, depending on the level of capacity, the level of inventory, and how long you get customers to wait. Now, when you think about these choices are not being made in a vacuum. After all, most companies are operating in a very competitive environment. So if it takes too long for a customer to get a product from you, and the same product is available somewhere else, that's where they're going to go if it's available faster there. So while you look at these pieces, the question is not to make these choices in isolation, but to sort of think about what is a competitive mix of capacity, inventory, and lead time. And when you're trying to make these choices, of course, as a company, you're existing to be profitable. So while you're looking at all these things, you're trying to look at, is it profitable? So what is the profit associated with these choices? And you're also trying to give people some guaranteed performance, and that the terminology we use is a terminology called service level. So these are the words we've used. We started off with describing operations as focused on a process of transformation. I mentioned that the key thing here is there are many entities involved, which is a system. The choices that you will make primarily deal with the level of capacity, the level of inventory, and the time it takes for a customer to get service. And while you make these choices, you've got to be competitive, you've got to be profitable, and deliver the performance that the customer expects or the customer is guaranteed. Okay, so this gives you a brief background regarding operations. What I'm going to do now is to give you some examples of things that as a student you might have a hard time understanding about operations.